Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. I hope you enjoy.
Story number 1. A handful of minutes, written by Echoing Cascade. In a small station in the middle of nowhere, Crowless, a Mysaurian worker, was eating while waiting for his commanding officer. It was his first outing into the station that served as a refueling stop for the ship he now served. Everyone had stayed well out of his way, and he sat down on an empty bench near the exit of a cafeteria. It had struck him as odd that no one else was seated there already, since most of the other available spots were occupied. The same people who had avoided his gaze had started to look at him angrily as he messily began to eat the meal he had brought, but he didn't care. He was a proud Mysaurian worker, 7 feet tall, reptilian, man with claws that could flay anyone who actually tried to fight him. After finishing eating the rather well-cooked meat on a stick, he was able to leave when something peculiar happened. An Aimorak, 4 feet tall, grey-skinned and with big black eyes, was floating in front of his feet. "What the hell do you want?" The Aimorak floated closer to the large warrior until he was mere inches from his face. "Clean that up." The small grey man pointed at the bench. The Mysaurian had expected many things. This was not one of them. Before he could say anything, however, his commanding officer had entered the cafeteria. The man was large, even by Mysaurian standards, and had a labyrinth of scars on his face. He quickly noticed the strange atmosphere as more people had stopped eating and were moving towards the Mysaurians, holding eating utensils as makeshift weapons. "Explain!" He had asked for this for his subordinate, but the Aimorak answered first. "Look!" He pointed at the bench. The officer's eyes went wide, and without a word, he backhanded Crowless, who crashed into the wall. The man then took off his cape, knelt down, and asked for some water, as he proceeded to clean the bench with zeal that would have shocked the Crowless were he still conscious. Crowless woke up in the ship's infirmary. The last thing he remembered was a large fist rapidly getting closer to his face. Then it hit him. "Commander Solaris knocked me out. Why?" While still confused, he tried to lift himself from the bed when a clawed hand stopped him. It was his commander. Crowless was equal parts panicked and confused. "What, did I do something to displease you, sir?" The large Mysaurian officer looked at him with a mix of rage and pity. "I would like to tell you a story." Crowless nodded, not that he had a lot of options. Sorreless stood over Crowless, who remained flat in his bed. 23 years ago, a scourge incursion happened on that station." Crowless shivered. Scourge, powerful, undead, and relentless. A nightmare to face on the battlefield. Sorreless continued. "Tell me how fast you can run from a cafeteria back to our vessel." Crowless was confused, but he was trained to answer when the officer asked the question. "I don't know, sir. 2 minutes, maybe less." He was a warrior. He was in great shape, so a turnaround speed was expected. Sorreless nodded. "Good. Now how long to finish pre-launch procedures?" 30 seconds. Sorreless nodded. "Now, how long could you hold 100 or so scourge infested trying to get through the cafeteria doors into the landing bay?" Crowless flexed his claws in fear and contemplation. I don't know, sir." Sorreless moved closer to his subordinate. "Could you hold them long enough for your fellow warriors to run into the ship and launch into the safety of space?" Crowless was about to answer when he was cut off. "Without weapons, without armor, without claws, without fangs." Crowless had felt intimidated by the story until that point. Now he was positively terrified. "Well?" "No, sir." Sorreless moved back, grabbed a nearby chair, and sat next to the bed, all sense of irritation gone from his demeanor. "He did that." Crowless sat up and looked at his commander. "Oh, and why do we not sing of his heroics?" "A human, an elderly vagrant." Sorreless turned to look at Crowless in the eyes. "Keep in mind that this was long before they integrated into galactic society. Humans stuck mostly to themselves at the time, but some became stowaways, looking for adventure or a better life elsewhere. Anywhere." "This man was a stowaway?" "Yes, he lived off the unsold food given by the restaurant owners of the station, in exchange for odd jobs. Shall we hold off the horde of Scourge for scraps of food? Solaris bolted out of the chair and grabbed Krolus by the neck and lifted him off the bed, one-handed. No! He did it for the respect they showed him! The respect that they continued to show him by keeping the bench he called home after closing hours, free of even a speck's dust! Zoralus put him down, not too gently. Krolus understood his mistake, and he felt many things, chief amongst them, shame. He should have asked for more information before venturing into the station. He had disrespected an honorable warrior who had died in the protection of others. What was his name? I need to make a proper amends. Zoralus looked pleased at Krolus, but the look faded into sadness. No one knows his true name, but he had no family, and no record was found by the Terran Alliance when they investigated. Krolus was crestfallen. A hero of that caliber, and no song could be made to honor him, not without his true name. All we know is that he held the doors closed for over 7 minutes, without weapons, without armor, without claws, without fangs, without hope of survival. And maybe that is enough. Krolus got up and looked himself in the mirror. Could I ever do such a thing? He looked at himself and made a vow to be better than this. He lifted his hand to his face, and under his right eye he carved the number 7 with his own claw. 30 years later, in the middle of soulless and human conflict, as a Terran Alliance colony was about to be overrun by an overwhelming number of Solus ships, a small fleet of Mysoran vessels interposed themselves. When the colony asked why they were doing so, as they were not allies or even on amicable terms, the Mysoran fleet commander, a warrior sporting the number 7 under his right eye, responded, I stood alone for 7 minutes without weapons, without armor, without claws, without fangs. The Mysoran fleet will stand for 7 days and 7 nights. This marked a turning point in the Mysoran/human relationship, from barely tolerating one another to fast friends. Krolus, the hero of the 12-day siege of Acheron 6, was immortalized in song, and many young Mysoran, awed by his tale, wondered who the man who stood alone was. They would all eventually make their way to a small refueling station in the outskirts of the Mysoran/Terran territory, where a bench is kept immaculate to this day. End of story. Story number 2. Deathworlds, Not As Bad As You Think, written by Fred Lowe. Beginning playback. Title screen. Deathworlds, Not As Bad As You Think. Title screen fades to show a sweeping shot along the beach of a body of water, before settling on a human wearing tan pants, colorful shirt, and a necklace of flowers. Beautiful, isn't it? Liquid water under the bright and sunny sky. Hello, I'm William Smith. You may remember me from such informational films such as A Predator's Concern and Coupling. Can you do the do with you-know-who? As most of us know, there are 3 primary kinds of worlds that commonly sustain life. These designated are paradise worlds, ambivalent worlds, and death worlds. Today, I'm here to discuss the 3rd category, death worlds. Most species have their own classifications for death worlds, depending on the species. Where I am right now, Earth, can range from a Class 3 death world to one species declaring Earth as a Class 37 death world. To understand the reason why classifications can vary so much due to the inherent dangers the world can expose you to, the fact that we have actual liquid water covering the vast majority of our planet already makes us a death world in the eyes of at least 4 species. A great many things can cause the classification number to tick upward. The sun bathing the planet with not only visible light, but infrared and ultraviolet light is an issue to some. Poisonous plants, venomous animals, natural predatory beasts still skulking about, and even the fact that prey can be just as dangerous as their predators can scare other species. Atmospheric gases, active volcanoes, tectonic shifts, severe weathers, you name it. If it is cause an issue, it adds to the death world classification. On Earth, here, the biggest threat to almost every species is the gravity. We are rated at an astounding 9.8 meters per second. The agreed gravity on most galactic installations is about 2.6 meters per second to accommodate the vast majority of known species. That alone makes us a death world to almost everybody. But there are still ways that can be handled. Some species have developed powerful exoskeletons or buoyancy providing environmental suits for short-term use in high-gravity worlds, such as ours. The atmosphere itself is a fairly large issue. The atmosphere of Earth is about 78% nitrogen, 20% oxygen, and 0.22% carbon dioxide, and the rest are trace gases. The fact the concentration of oxygen is so low often means supplemental breathing equipment must be included in your travel itinerary if you wish to visit here. Figure fades out and is replaced by videos of some kind of tribal dancing, vast jungles, barren deserts, sprawling cities, and a blue sky with birds of flight. However, a trip to a death world can be enlightening. It allows you to view other cultures, explore vast biomes, amazing architecture, and see the creatures that you may never have known existed. Video switches back to the man now laying in a chair with some kind of drink with a tiny umbrella in it. A death world may seem like a scary place on paper, but in reality, if you can work around some of the more pressing issues, it can be quite a nice vacation destination. I hope that you can change your mind about visiting some of the places you may never have gone. Join me next time for Pray, Not Always Harmless. The man takes a drink as the screen fades to white. The logo that included a facsimile of Earth appears in the words, brought to you in part with the Terran Tourism Bureau, before fading to black. End playback. End of story.
I would quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and Patreons. Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Barky, Lord Azrakal, It's Difficult to Pronounce, Dragzoon WRE, Holly's Sister, Arcadian. Thank you very much.